Today we're going to be talking about why you should be able to detach from your emotions. Now, you can do what you want with this, right? Feel how you want to feel about it, believe what you want to believe, but at the very least you'll have it in your tool belt, and then you have the choice, right? And I want to go ahead and preface this, that this is not about being cold, right? When we think of detachment, but it is about being free. And funny enough, the man who doesn't need control is usually the one that earns most of the control. But before we get any deeper into that, guys, what's going on? If you're new to my channel, welcome to the channel Limitless Legion. This channel is for the ones who know they're built for more. The ones who don't run from pressure, they grow through it. So with that being said, if you want to join the Limitless Legion, all you got to do is subscribe to my channel and leave a like, because it lets the algorithm know that we're building something real over here. But without further ado, the title of today's video is The Man Who Can Walk Away Doesn't Have to. Kind of expanding on what I just said, right? The man who doesn't need control is often privileged with control, right? Again, it's not about being emotionless, right? And it's not about even lying to yourself and pretending like you don't care when you know that you do. But this is about freedom, okay? And what we have to understand, guys, is that freedom comes when your self-worth, is no longer up for negotiation. The freedom that happens when you're not moved by threats, when you're not moved by games, chaos, right? Why? Because you already know your value. And you also know your exit is always available if you so choose, right? And when you have that level of freedom and options, right? Because if you guys haven't watched my video about courage giving you options, again, when you have courage, you have options, right? When you have cowardice, you're boxed in. And courage allows you to go outside that box, right? And actually explore, because you're not afraid anymore. And that type of man, guys, doesn't need control. That's what I really want to focus on, right? The need for control, right? But first, remember, the kind of man that doesn't need control always somehow commands it. Isn't that crazy? So, there's a very common misunderstanding, guys. We think that detachment is the same as being disconnected, right? We think that detachment equals disconnection. So let's be real. When you first heard me say emotional detachment, a lot of y'all probably immediately thought cold, distant, unavailable. But the point of my channel, guys, I want us to be able to go beyond surface level thinking, because what we're talking about is so much deeper. Detachment doesn't mean that you don't feel, guys, but you're not going to let your feelings own you. Okay? Your identity, your decisions, and ultimately your dignity, right, is not up for debate. Okay? Especially when people try to challenge us or test our boundaries. All right? Detachment is inner spaciousness. When I say inner spaciousness, I'm talking about the ability to observe without having to control. Because when you need control, you will lose it. Here's the paradox. The moment that you need something to stay, you then begin compromising yourself in order to keep it. And the moment that others, right, feel that desperation, guys, now they hold the power over you. That's true in relationships. That's true in business. Guys, that's true in life. The most magnetic man in any situation is not the one begging for the mic, guys. It's the one who would have said something powerful, could have said something powerful, but chose that he didn't need to. Right? Or maybe he did. But it's the one who's good either way, in either scenario. Guys, when you can walk away, what you'll see is that people will lean in. But the more you need to be chosen, the more you become invisible. When you don't need to be chosen, that's when you choose yourself. So stop chasing. Because when you stop chasing, then people start respecting. Because they have no choice but to respect. Calm is king, guys. Have you ever seen how people behave around you when they feel that you're not even entangled when it comes to worry about the outcome? Worrying about the outcome? When we stop trying to fix, when we stop trying to prove, when we stop begging, and just be rooted. Calm is contagious, guys. But it can't be faked. Okay? And again, we're not being cold. We're just being centered. People trust that. Women trust that. Leaders respect that. Even your enemies have to second guess their moves around that. I hope you don't have enemies, but if you're doing something in this world, right? If you're on your path and you're trying to be great, then you just might have a few pop up. And another thing that I want to clear up, guys, you don't have to threaten to leave. You don't have to try to remind people of your worth. You just have to be the type of man that don't hesitate when it's time to go. That's what presence is, guys. And because you have it in you, that's what makes people want to stay, and you won't even have to use it. Ain't that beautiful? They can sense it in you, and then you in most cases, you don't even have to try to test it. That's presence. You guys, you can't flinch. Okay? That presence, like I said, that's emotional authority. So let's talk about what this really looks like, guys. It's saying what you mean without fearing the reaction. Have you ever had people try to provoke you? Well, it's standing still in silence even under that. Right? And when people try to pull you off center, you don't even retaliate. Right? You're unshakable. Now, you're not RoboCop, right? You're not a robot. But You're unshakable. You're just aligned. You're congruent in yourself. Okay, guys? Because you know that your love is a gift, right? Your love is a gift, but it's not your leash. You're rooted, and your decisions come from your values and not from your wounds. Let's talk about what I know y'all want to talk about. Let's talk about the relationship aspect, right? Let's go deeper, especially for my guys, that's in relationships. Sure, she wants your attention, right? She wants your attention. Absolutely. But she also wants your internal authority as well, guys. Right? She wants to make sure that you're not going to collapse under pressure. And the biggest thing, video went out at the most epic time, didn't it? But I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. What I was going to say is that she wants to know that you're not going to collapse under pressure. And by collapse under pressure, what I'm referring to is that your emotions don't drag you out of character. Even that her emotions don't drag you out of character. Okay? She needs to know that. All right? You have to start being a place for her that doesn't shake. They can't be moved off center. Right? Because the man who can walk away but doesn't have to, right, proves already just by that he's no longer chasing, he's choosing, he's making the decisions, right? And you want to, when we're talking about this thing here, right, I want you guys to start looking at it from the perspective of you want to build the exit, but you don't want to threaten the exit, okay? There's power, guys, in knowing that you could do something, but you choose not to. You could leave, but you choose not to. Not out of fear, not out of scarcity, right? But out of knowing, right? Out of certainty, out of clarity. And clarity is alignment.